Okay, why don't we start with one for the live streaming to get
Sure.
these guys warmed up?
Sure. This one's from Edward Chen. What are the plans for increasing renewable energies on campus, e.g. solar and wind, and what funding will be available?
I'm going to hand that over. He's not on the panel up here, but Bart Becker, our VP Facilities.
It's a great question. It's something certainly our Chief Sustainability Officer for the University of Calgary is looking at right now. We are currently looking at also an energy, a long-term energy program. We do hedge some dollars, and recently the board has approved a utility reduction program where we look at how we can work and improve the performance of our buildings and reduce water on our campus as well. But it's certainly on the forefront of what we're looking at.
Thanks very much, Bart. Okay, questions in the room. There's a question over here. Do we have a mic?
Yeah, right in the
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Shannon. I have a question on the IT issue. All the information that we have, if you need help, call your IT support center or your IT partner. Are the people in the IT support center, is there going to be an increase in bodies or has there been an increase in bodies to manage I'm sure the increase in calls, and what's that look like going forward?
Great question. Thank you, Shannon. Yes, through the malware crisis, at one point, I think I'm looking at Catherine, I think we were up to a maximum of 30 people that were actually staffing the help desk. We will be doing the same as we go through some of these transitions. We recognize how frustrating it is when you want to get something done, and if we don't staff up, obviously, we're not going to have the ability to respond to your questions. So yes, there will be, and I think we'll continue some of the pop-up, because sometimes it's just nice as you're going into your office to go, there's IT, I've got a question for them. But yes, and if you're not feeling that you're getting the service, there's always the ability to basically go the next level and just say, can you help me out with how I get the service that I need? We really are trying to be far more responsive than we had been maybe historically. Excellent. Great. Excellent.
Great question. I'm going to turn it back to Bruce for one, and then we've got a question over here.
Actually, we just realized it's the same question. We had a question from Rose Tobias, ACRI, Cummings School of Medicine, and she asked the exact same question. Yes.
Okay, great. I think we have a question over here. Just one sec. Wait for the mic, please.
My name's Emil. Linda, how are you going to manage the discontent that disclosure may create? If I find out that somebody in my faculty is making more money and I'm doing a better job and I'm getting less pay, I'm going to need that grant from that mental health thing.
So I think the first and most important thing is we do recognize there will likely be discontent. And when we talk to our colleagues, some of whom are now on campus, who've been in other institutions where these types of lists have come out, we recognize there's a fairly significant amount of churn. We will continue to educate as much as we can as to how we set compensation. We expect that you should, if you have those concerns or anybody else does, be able to have a very open, honest conversation with your leader about how your compensation is determined. But ultimately, this is going to cause, to your point, it will cause some discontent and disruption. Now, Drew, I don't know if you wanted to add to that, please.
I'll just add a couple of comments, because I know in the academy there are a variety of ways that people make money. And you'll all have base salaries, but some people will do overload teaching that you might not be aware of. Some people will have PI fees that are paid through industry that you might not be aware of. And you will always find people who are making more and some who are making less, and it's not clear to us where you'd be with that comparison afterwards. So what we've done is we've talked to all of the deans, we've talked to the heads and the associate deans. I think there is a danger in comparison for sure, because in this particular exercise, you will not have the appropriate information to make the right comparison. You'll see a global salary there, and you won't know what's in that salary. So I just encourage you to be really open-minded when you see the list.
And I just encourage you, take a deep breath, because I know it's very personal to have, you're talking to people who've had their compensation out for many years. My picture was in the paper this morning, actually, so it's very personal. You consider it very private. Obviously, people will slice and dice data. It's a searchable database, so there'll be maybe 5 research papers within a week on this. I don't know. But take a deep breath, you know, because if everybody's just inundating their manager, their department head, their dean on day one, that's going to cause a lot of stress. So I just encourage you to maybe sit back, reflect, and, you know, if there's concerns, certainly approach the appropriate person to have a discussion about your compensation, but not your compensation relative to the person who's in the office beside you, because of course those comparisons can't be done.
We're all taking advantage of the mental health strategy too.
Great. Any other questions in the room? Any live streaming? Oh, okay, there's some in the back. Well, while we're getting that one, any live streaming?
Always, always.
Always.
Yeah, Karen's got a question for you. What steps is the University of Calgary taking to prevent future hacking and other external hacking?
That is a fabulous question. The first thing that I will say is a lot of what we've done to date, looking at some of our other vulnerabilities, is definitely one of those steps that we're taking now. But the key is going to be diligence and really looking at continuing to employ the best practices and the best tools to manage the traffic on our network. The managed versus unmanaged is going to be huge. But I do want to let you know that as much as we are going to do strong efforts, the reality is there haven't been very many agencies in the world who have not been hit by some level of malware attack. NASA was hit by a malware attack. Many government and very world-class organizations, Sony was hit by a malware attack. So the key is, do we have the tools to see it and to respond quickly and effectively? It is not going to be a full prevention, but it's going to be preventing as much as we can and being able to respond as quickly as possible with the right management, the right network, and the right tools.
Great question. I think there's a question right here.
Yeah, this question's for Linda. Are we going to be staying with the email system that we have now, or there's a lot of problems with it, meetings disappearing, emails disappearing, messages not going out, messages not coming in? Just wondered.
Okay, so well, I guess we used to have 3, we're down to 2. We have both Cyrus and Office 365 running right now. So by the end of the year, we expect to only have one email system, which will be Office 365. If your concerns are about Office 365 email, because I'm not sure which platform you're on, that's very problematic to us from an IT perspective. And I'd really appreciate if you could contact the help desk at the support center, because our plan is Office 365 is our platform of choice. If we're having problems with those emails, I'm very concerned. I'm equally concerned before Cyrus moves over if you're having those problems with Cyrus. The best help can be the support center. And yes, Office 365 is our continued platform, if that's the one you're talking about.
Thank you. There's a question up here in the back, or in the middle.
Yes, I have a question. How much did the university pay for the ransom? What was the total amount? And how much did it cost university aside from the ransom money to fix this?
Okay, so we're still actively in an investigation, so I can't talk to you about the ongoing costs. Again, because we have cyber insurance, most of those costs will be covered through that insurance policy, which is again why cyber insurance was a smart thing. In terms of the ransom, we paid the equivalent of $20,000 Canadian in Bitcoins. And just to allay any fears, Bitcoins are a legal digital currency. In fact, there's a coffee shop on 17th Avenue that has a Bitcoin ATM. So the currency that we paid in was Bitcoins, but it was approximately $20,000. And we feel that that was a very good investment in terms of ensuring that life's work has been protected.
Okay. Thank you very much. Other questions? At the mic, go ahead.
Hi, I'm wondering if there's any concerns that by paying the ransom, we open ourselves up to more likely future attacks, given it's a successful attack for the attackers?
So I think what the question was, if because we paid the ransom, that kind of puts us open to future attacks. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And we did debate that, and we've talked to the experts about it. This attack was, I guess it's good for the community to understand, we have no evidence that this was a targeted attack. It was an attack based on someone found a vulnerability to exploit. Because of the mechanism under which it was paid, it wasn't done, it's not like there's a big University of Calgary sign on it. So we haven't opened ourselves up that way. However, we do believe, because we think there are elements that could be open and available to some of the bad guys out there, we do believe that in the early days there were probably maybe more eyes on us, not necessarily we get attacked. At this point, because of what we've been doing, we have seen our malicious traffic trying to get in or getting through our first layer go down to almost nothing, and that's the benefit of world-class tools. Where we're seeing the most activity is on the unmanaged machines, and that's one of the reasons we want to bring them over to the managed. But we do not believe we're at a greater risk. We think we were an unfortunate victim, but at the same time, we also see that going forward, we can never let our guard down again, because you've got to learn from your mistakes. And while we can't necessarily prevent, we can definitely limit. So we don't think that we're under any more risk than anybody else. And in fact, probably in a lot of cases under less, because we've upped our game in terms of what we've been doing.
Thanks. Great question. Other questions in the room? Question over here. And if you could say who you are and what group you're with on campus, it'd be terrific.
Hi there, I'm Daniel Voth. I'm faculty in political science. I'm really excited about the Indigenous initiatives that are occurring at the university right now, and I'm interested to know if one of the institutional or the infrastructure items that we might be able to look at down the road is a First People's House, similar to what's been done at UBC and U of Vic and U of S. And I think U of A is looking at that too, and in all cases, those spaces have been incredibly valuable assets to the university community and great places for Indigenous peoples to gather.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that question. People in the room will know that we're in the midst of developing our Indigenous strategy, and there will be a variety of things that come out of that. We anticipate that the process will be done probably April next year. We'll have full approval. That's the goal. Certainly one of the things we will discuss will be space. Right now, you may be familiar with, we have the Spopee House, which was came out of one of our projects in the sustainability area. And it is, we use it actually for committee meetings for this particular group and for ceremony. And it was anticipated to be a space that we might use in a different way. But certainly I imagine that one of the things we are going to be talking about is a space like a longhouse or an Aboriginal people's house. But that's down the road a bit, I think. There has been a long-standing project on our campus. If you go into the Native Student Center, you'll actually see a mock-up of a design. So it is on the docket. Not quite sure where it will sit by the time we're finished.
Thank you very much. No more questions on live stream. Any more in there? I'm getting a sense it's Friday afternoon and 2 o'clock. Just last call for any questions. There is one here. Great.
Hi, Patrick Moff, Vice President, Student Life for the Students' Union. I just have one question. How is the recently renewed mental health funding being allocated to services across campus? Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Well, we have We have just submitted a proposal to the government. There are a variety of things in that proposal, particularly around measures and doing studies in terms of the effectiveness of the initiatives that we've put in place. So there's still some work to do on that, and the government still has to get back on what they think they're going to fund. I can tell you we also put an additional $3 million aside, $1.5 million that will go to staff initiatives, $1.5 million that will go to student initiatives from university money. You will see an announcement next week, an exciting announcement that we have hired a person who is going to be a director of the mental health strategies. And the implementation committee, of course, is very excited about that because he essentially will lead the implementation piece. And one of the things that will happen, the first thing that will be happening, is to take the mental health strategy, look at all the things we said we'd do, and actually identify which are most important and what order they should be done in. So that will happen over the summer, and then we'll really get to work.
Thanks, Drew. Last call for questions. We will stay behind as always, and so we'll stay at the front if you want to come and approach us and ask us a question one-on-one. Oh, we have live streaming. Well,
yeah, we've got a couple new questions coming in. This one's from Ken Lane, sorry. I've been receiving inquiries from my MAP staff regarding base salary increases or one-time payments this year. Are there any plans for the same?
It's a great question, Ken, and I'm sure there's others in the room who are asking the same. On the recommendation of the government, we were asked to freeze salaries for our management and professional staff that are also extended to SLT and ELT. And at this point, because of that salary freeze, there are no plans. And part of that salary freeze also limits that we do not have the ability to pay one-time or lump sums. So I really appreciate the question. It's great.
do you have another question there, Bruce?
We do, yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. This one comes from Benjamin Joshua Smith. Between the Enbridge and the McEwen Hall controversy, the allocation of funding at the University of Calgary developed significant unrest within the student body. As the student body and provincial and federal funding discussed today are both integral to the university's success, what steps will senior administration take to rebuild trust and transparency with both current and future students, as well as future funding opportunities?
Well, maybe I'll start, and then Drew and even Linda. We very much value our relationships with our students. I see our student leaders are here today. They represent our students on our board. We had a great board meeting this morning. There are a lot of meetings, of course, outside those formal structures, whether it's the General Faculties Council Board or other committees. I know Drew is very active, as is Linda and myself. So it is a valuable relationship, and we know sometimes in valuable relationships, when things are important to both sides, there can be difficulties. But the one thing that I've been tremendously proud of our student leaders and certainly of our team is when there are these tough situations, we still need to work together. We still need to progress the university for the benefits of everybody, and of course, including our students. That's why we're here. And I've been tremendously impressed by their level of commitment to working together on a number of issues that are impacting our campus community in an extremely productive way. Same commitment from the senior administration, and I'm very optimistic going forward that that strong relationship will continue. But Drew, maybe I'll hand it over to you for some more comments.
So I really appreciate the question. I know student relationships in the Provost's office, for sure, we talk about everything we do, that we do being related to students and making sure that students have a great student experience while they're here. This year, the team, each of the vice provosts will have their own reference group of students. And so while we will deal with the SU on any number of issues in SU Council and GSA, each member of the provost team, so all of the vice provosts, myself, will have our own individual reference groups that we will be able to make sure we're connecting with students right across campus in a variety of ways. I have had some really interesting discussions with a variety of student groups, and one of the things I think we really have to be careful about is talking with our students instead of talking to them. This is something that we're going to commit to make sure that our relationship is strong and solid going forward. I have huge respect for the students standing up for what they believe in. We wouldn't have a university if they didn't do that. And I know that they respect that we might on occasion have a different opinion because we come from a different point of view. And I think this is what a university is all about, that we can have different points of view and be okay with that.